All right, and we are back. Thanks to the engineer that has helped us out here in the session. But we want to go right back to what we were talking about. That some young man out there is thinking to himself, you know what? I got to get myself a guitar. I got to get myself a guitar, just so that I could get that. It doesn't work like that all the time. It just happens to be that God uses, God works in mysterious ways.
He sure does. That was very unexpected, but
right.
very welcomed.
That's right. That's right. So you know what? Let's get into the session tonight. And again, our thing is we're going to be answering some questions that we just kind of put together, and that's going to kind of shape our discussion tonight. So I'm going to, ladies first?
Yes.
Okay.
So ladies, I try to come up with some questions that I thought would be useful to you guys in understanding the mind of the man, because we all know that men are from Mars and women are from Venus. So these are some questions that I think will give you a little bit insight into how a man thinks. Danger zone. I could
already see the gentleman out there saying, you just put yourself in the hot seat. For sure. You just put yourself in the hot seat. So, please help me out with your comments. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. So if you need a lifeline, we can call Pastor Angel.
Yes, that's right.
Is that what we'll do?
Pastor, if you're listening, I know you're listening out there. If I need a lifeline, I'm going to be calling you.
So when did you realize that it was time to seal the deal and commit for a lifetime? Because I know that's a scary commitment.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when did I know that it was time to seal the deal? To be honest, at the beginning, I just had graduated. I know your dad one of the things your dad told me was, you have to wait until she finishes college. At that time, I was, I'm a couple of years older than you. I won't say how old, but I'm a couple of years older than 40. I'm a couple of years older than my wife, and her dad said, even though I had finished college, she said, you have to let her finish as well. So, I said, no problem. We've been waiting for so long, and so we just waited. I waited for her to finish college. One of the things that I thought was just looking at, after 8 years together, I said, it's been a while. It's been not that we were going to do it just because sometimes marriages, right before marriage, it's like you've been with the person so long, and that's the next thing you do.
Right.
There's many times that's what people do.
That's what others expect.
That's what expect. Right.
So
Everybody should do it because you've been this long together, so why not? Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I thought was just seeing who you were. And I said, definitely, she has the qualities that I've been looking for in a woman. And one of the things, it was not necessarily how could you complete me? Mm-hmm. It was not that was not what I was looking at. I was what really interests me, what really caught my attention, is how independent you are.
Okay.
That's one of the things that I always told you. Mm-hmm. And I said, I love the fact that you don't need me. I love the fact that you are who you are all by yourself. And I said, if she's interested in me, even though, she doesn't need me.
So I chose to love you. I didn't need to love you.
Exactly. That. So one of the things I said, that is a woman that I definitely would want to marry, and a woman that I definitely would like to have a lifetime with and commit to. In life, and just to see your qualities as a woman, and how how humble you are, how intelligent you are, how smart you are, how just the qualities that everyone else saw, and I saw that within your home, growing up, going to your father's house to visit you, and just that
sneaking flowers through the windows.
Yeah, sneaking flowers through the windows. Also, the leader in you that also. That I saw, and that the church saw. You were a PK. You were involved in so many different areas, and I was not your everything. You had a life besides me, and I found that just attractive.
Yeah, and I tell the young people, we work with young people also, and it's very important that they understand as young women that we want to be a blessing, not a burden.
Right.
And I'm very big on that. And I teach my daughter that. I teach my son that. I teach my two daughters, my one son. God created us to be a blessing, not a burden. So that we understand that we know God.
Right.
And in knowing God, He completes us. So your job wasn't to complete me.
Right.
Your job was to complement me.
Right. Amen.
You know? And in that complement is where we became one, and we became a family unit. And you weren't burdened with having to be my savior in any way, or having to be anything outside of what you were created to be, which was to complement me.
Yeah, not that there wasn't any concerns, of course. As a young, there are concerns as you're moving into marriage. There are certain questions that you even when the spouse is a perfect, nobody's perfect. But what I said, okay, she's just perfect for me.
Yeah.
When I said she was perfect, I think one of the things more than anything else, and we spoke about this years ago, is more. I was, it was myself. Was I ready for her? What was
that was your question?
That was my question. Did one of the things that men always ask is, do you God created Adam in a garden? Did I have the garden for you? One of my concerns. Did I have everything that I can give you when I was going to pull you out of your dad's house? You're coming from a home that you have security, that you have a father figure, you have a mother figure, you have a brother as well. You had a family nucleus, and I was now going to pull you out of that and being able to say, do I have a garden for her to come into? Because she's already in the garden. And so that was at the time I was in between jobs, I was in between careers, and so those were the fears that I faced in
you
that.
answered my second question.
Oh, did I? Okay, I'm sorry. What is your second question then?
What was your greatest fear entering marriage?
Yeah, and I would say that when man, one of the things that God created us to do is always to be able to be the provider. And in throughout this whole marriage that we've been together, that has always been the burden. But as you grow, you begin to realize that God gave Adam the garden, and so in that, you realize that even though God has given you the responsibility to care for the garden, it's God's responsibility to multiply within the garden and to give you, as long as you're following in those footsteps, the Genesis says that they were together, that they were together in the garden. They were naked and they were not ashamed, meaning that they were open to each other. And so one of the fears that beginning in marriage was definitely that, where whether or not I was able to supply. And I think that being a young man, I was only 27 years old. I'm only 30 now. I'm just joking. Being 27 years old, that's one definitely one. Thank you, baby. Thank you. That's one of the concerns that I definitely had. So definitely one of the fears.
So why do you think men? Oh, I'm going off script.
No, that's fine. Is
that okay?
That's great.
So why do you think men are so afraid of commitment? And from a woman's perspective, we think men are afraid of commitment.
Right.
Is that a fallacy? Is that true? Are men really afraid of commitment? And if so, why?
Okay, that's a hard. You're putting me in a spot because every man out there is going to want to answer. Yeah. I think that it really has to do. Women. When we think of commitment, you think of commitment when it comes to you. Many a times, and I'm going to answer, the commitment is not necessarily you. It's the commitment to myself. Can I be faithful to myself so that I can be faithful to you? So when men think of commitment, the struggle is not necessarily the woman. The struggle is within themselves. There is a struggle that happens within a man that he thinks within himself, and he says, when we present to the woman who we are, we're presented that, the best, when you're going on a date, when you're presenting the best aspect of a man. But as you're going into commitment, you look at yourself in the mirror and you say to yourself, do I have the qualities, truly, do I have the qualities to keep the commitment? Also, when she sees the true me, when she sees the true me,
powerful.
Is she going to stay committed? So the struggle of the commitment is, yes, there is a commitment where we say to you in our vows, and we say to you in our marriage, to death to us part. But there is first a struggle within about the commitment, and being able to say, I have what it takes so that she could be committed to me. Because, when you first go into a marriage, and I think this happens many a times, and I want you to speak on this, many a times we when we go into marriage, we go into marriage very selfish.
Yes.
Because we're immature in the aspect of what a man and how a man should be, and how he should think of more about, we think about the garden, and we think more about all the other things that make us look good. And so we forget that when that woman is a mature woman, like I have, she sees beyond the garden. She sees the man. And Eve saw the man. Eve, it says that they were both naked. That she was more impressed with the man than she was with the garden. And not to say that there are not women out there that are impressed with the garden. There's definitely women out there that are more impressed with the garden than with the man. And when the man has no garden, he's not so attractive.
Right.
And so there's the battle inside, because society has placed that, you have to have the car, you have to have the nice car, you have to have the nice job, you have to have the nice house, you have to have certain things, because our struggle is that everything else that is within the garden makes us.
Defines you.
This defines us.
The size of your garden
defines. That's right. There
you.
You go. The size of my garden defines me. And so in that, we kind of, we struggle to place a commitment, because we don't know whether or not, once you see us and you see that the magic of the garden goes away, you might change your mind. So,
That's why I think having had that long 8-year relationship
yes,
was helpful to
yes.
us. And I know it's not for everyone, because, of course, we started very young, so we could, it was easier for us to wait for 8 years.
Right.
But having the time to build that friendship, because that's really where the unconditional acceptance and love steps in, when you have that strong friendship before becoming physically involved.
Right.
And it helped a lot that we chose to wait.
Yes.
It helped a lot that we focused on communicating and getting to know each other emotionally.
Yes.
Have that emotional intimacy with another before consummating the marriage and the relationship. So when you mention that, I think that's important that you say that, because men feel very vulnerable. This is the most intimate thing you'll ever experience is marriage.
Sure.
With that intimacy, there are risks, right?
Yes.
There are risks, because, and I think it's important as women of God that we also learn to create a safe environment for our husbands.
Yes, that's important. Yes.
Yeah, a culture of honor, where you honor your husband for who he is, where you see what he can be, and you can speak into their lives, and not just apply pressure about what you want them to be, but rather than declare what God has created them to be, and be that cheerleader. I want to know that I'm your biggest cheerleader.
Right.
Because then you don't, when someone else cheers you on,
yes,
you have so much cheering on at home, it doesn't even distract you.
Right. That's good. That's good. That's a great point.
That's my goal as a wife, is to be his biggest cheerleader. And to know that even in the most vulnerable moments, you're mine. You're mine, and I take pride in that you're mine. And when I bring you down, I bring down what God has given me.
Yes, yeah. That I go back to the selfish, let's get to the questions.
Yeah,
there's so much.
We're getting off track. But definitely, for those of you who may be interested in exploring that topic a little bit more, there's a great book by Danny Silk, and it's called Culture of Honor. And I think that culture of honor is actually what has given me the most success in my marriage, is honoring my husband and knowing how to honor him. I always tell the girls, I said, listen, if you treat him like the king of the castle, he'll always come right back. And so I always use that analogy. My baby is the king of the castle, and it's really my way of saying I honor him and his God-given position.
Right.
I honor all the way God created him, very uniquely, very specifically, and he need not feel the pressure to be anything else but who he is.
Amen.
You know, so that is my goal. So ladies, if you want to look into that, it's a great read, Culture of Honor, and even for men as well. So third question.
Yes.
Is there, after 20 years of marriage,
yes,
is there anything you would do differently?
That's she's got some great questions, ladies. I tell you, what would I do differently? I'm going to go back to what I said before.
Okay.
I would tell myself not to be so selfish at the beginning of our relationship. To go back and say, you know, being a young man, I was so selfish in thinking that I needed to have certain things in order. And I'm not saying that that's not important. You have to have certain things, you know, you have to have your job and you have to, but there were certain things that I wanted everything before I went into marriage, because, it really was a selfish thing, because, you know, being a musician, I wanted to have, you know this, as, you know, I wanted to have certain, goals that I had met. But what I realized now is those goals could not be met without you. Those goals, God had placed those goals with you in mind. You know, sometimes when being men that where we set these goals and we said, you know, we're going to go for it, and we leave behind the family, and we leave behind our wives, and we leave behind our kids, because we think that as long as we can reach that goal, if we can reach that goal, we can reach our family, not understanding that God placed the family within. You know, there's when I spoke to the men, one of the topics that I spoke about is God uses your home to develop you.
Right.
Remember, I said the importance of when God places you in a marriage and God places you in a home, and He uses that home to develop who you are, and you're not going to continue setting the goal, or you're not going to move towards the goal until you learn how to be developed within the home. So sometimes as men, we set our goal not including our wives and not including our children. And when we do that, we lack to understand that God placed them there to get to the goal.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's deep. That's deep. So if you were limited to making one request to God,
my God.
Right,
That's
about our marriage, what would that request be?
If I was limited to
making one
request,
one thing you could ask of the Lord regarding our marriage, what would it be?
I would have to say, I have to think about this one. It's great questions. I tell you, ladies, you are so good at this. You know, if I would say one request, I would have to say, man, that's a tough question, especially when you're saying one request. It's not
right.
You know.
So that's really, we're alluding to priority.
Yes,
what
would be my priority?
Primary request to God about our marriage.
I would have to go back to what we spoke about. That I would look more internally within the family. You know, a better relationship. I would have to say a better relationship with you, a better relationship with my kids. Have a better relationship with them. I was just, you know, being when you mature, and the kids grow, and the marriage grows to different levels as you continue to develop. To be able to look within the marriage, you know, because it's amazing how many times you fall in love again. You know. That's what the world doesn't understand, is that not that you fall out of love, but that you don't feel it sometimes. You know, it's realistic.
It's the reality.
It's the fruit.
That eros stage,
right.
That erotic stage is not always there.
It's not always there. But being able to go through this, a lot of times, right, society now says that, you know, you go through something, you go through a struggle, and boom, then there's division and there's divorce.
Right.
I'm not saying that, and I want to be clear, there are circumstances in which divorce is needed. But many a times in society, and it happened in the times of Jesus as well, where you could leave your wife for anything. At one time, I was hearing a preacher, if you didn't like the way she looked in the morning, you could leave her. If you didn't like the way her hair,
oh boy,
oh boy, and so many times when struggle comes, when problems come, you fall out of love, if I could use that term. So it seems. But after you struggle through certain things and you come through it, you then say, many a times I'll look at you and say, well, now I'm in love with her again. Not that I fell out of love. It's just that because of the struggle and because of the burdens of life, those feelings are not there because you are focused on other things. But when you come through it, then that feeling that comes again.
It kindles.
It's not that it's not there. It's just that because of the burdens, so I would say, what would I do differently? I would understand and say to myself, it doesn't matter what you go through. It's going to make your love stronger. It's going to make your love stronger.
Both peaks and valleys.
Right, that's right. Both the peaks and valleys. That's what's going to make your love stronger. So I go back to, when you're developing as a young man, in my 20s and my 30s, now going into my, I'm in my 40s, you don't understand that at first, So I would do that differently. I would say to myself, you know what? It doesn't matter what comes, you have to understand and learn at an earlier age that,
that pruning is part of being fruitful.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Should I throw a question to you? I think
I've got one more. One more. What advice do you have for married men who are battling with disappointment in marriage?
That's a great question. What advice would I have for men that are battling disappointment? Let me tell you why that's a tough question. Because you first have to understand, what area are you disappointed in? If you're disappointed within yourself, that's a discussion.
Wow.
Because or if you're disappointed with your relationship within the marriage, or you're disappointed within your job, or you're disappointed, just life itself and the cards that you've been dealt. Let me answer the first one. If you're disappointed within yourself, you have to understand that if you're here for a purpose. If you are battling within yourself and you say to yourself, you know what, I'm struggling within myself because I should be, especially with men as they get older. As you get older, you said, I should be this far. And when you look back and you're not that far. What are you say to yourself, what did I not do in the past? What is it that I did not do? Because everyone, as a teenager, as you're getting older, many of us, everyone has some dream that they want to do something. But as you're getting older, you see those dreams not coming about because it could be something in life that happened, some situations that you had, whatever it may be the cause. Look at the situation now. You're disappointed, you're battling within yourself. I'll tell you this, that's why God is key. Many times it could be, I'm disappointed because I didn't have a relationship with my father, or I didn't have a family relationship, and you're coming from a place where you didn't see certain things in your family, and so because you didn't see something, you never experienced it. You don't know how to react to certain situations. I go back to God. God created you for a purpose, and He knows your purpose more than your dad, more than your mom, more than anyone, more than your wife. God knows your purpose. Now, I think there's one of the things we spoke about this morning, because we were listening to an interview, and one of the things that and the interviewer, Bishop, is amazing. He said that, he said many a time people come to church and we know how to cheer them and we know how to lift them up for the week, but we don't know how to give them the plan for Monday. And I think that's where being at this age where I have a wife, I have 3 kids, I have what I have. there has been circumstances within myself that I say I have not reached those goals.
Sure.
One thing that you spoke to me about, and I think that one of the things that the interview spoke to me about, is what are you planning now? Where are you? If you're disappointed where you are, what are you doing to change that? What plans are you doing to change that? I don't know how to do it. That's one of the things you told me, honey, you have so many dreams, but you don't know how to plan and go ahead and fulfill those dreams. And you told me you need to read more. You need to, look at the people that already have planned these things and learn from them. And I said to myself, boom, that's the key. You're right, honey. One of the keys, I'm a dreamer, you know it.
Big time.
I am a dreamer.
I love it. Yeah.
I am a dreamer, but I'm not a planner. I'm not very good at planning. I'm blessed because you're a planner. God has blessed me with you. So one of the things is now at 45 years old, those goals that I haven't reached is because I haven't planned. And so I need to shift it. And whether it's be a disappointment within myself, a disappointment within marriage, a disappointment with my family, whatever at my job, I need to then, at this age, no matter how old I am, I need to plan. I need to plan differently. That means I need to think differently. I need to put things into place, and I need advice from people that have already done it. I need to create relationships without, not only within the family, but out those people that have already done it. If you want, if you want a different result, you have to do a different action. And so being 45 years old, I'm learning that I have to move, and into getting advice from other people, and to getting, I'm not a planner, so I need people that plan and help me learn how to plan, so that I can then move from my disappointment, from the stage of disappointment to the stage of fruitfulness.
Right?
Of fruitfulness.
Awesome.
I think it's your time, honey.
Awesome. I'll try to answer as
All
best
right,
as I
guys,
can.
it is our time. So now we get to ask the questions. So here's one question it's a personal question that I want to ask my wife is, why me? Why me? Why'd you pick me? Let's see.
Because you were my Gaston.
Okay. Okay.
No, I loved you because you were willing to wait.
Okay.
And that to me was a sign of maturity and commitment.
Okay.
You waited for me.
Okay.
And clearly if you waited for me, you thought I was worth waiting for.
Oh, yes, you definitely were.
And with you, I could always be who I was. I didn't need to in any way put up a facade. You accepted me for who I was. You embraced it. You encouraged my dreaming. You weren't, you're extremely supportive. I've always been an ambitious person, always goal oriented. And those goals never bothered you, and you encouraged them. So I saw you not only as possibly being, I saw what you could be. I knew that you could be a good partner, that you could be a good collaborator, that you could be a genuine friend. And there was never a judgment zone with you. I was who I was, and there was no judgment there. Like, I never felt like anything that I ever said in my moments of weakness, in my moments of despair, in my moments of strength, it was a judgment-free zone. And that was important to me as a PK, because I was a PK.
Right.
And one thing about PKs is we're under the fire a lot.
Right. Pastor's kid, you're always under the fire.
Yes, pastor's kids, we are in the public. I don't hear myself now, so I hope I'm still on.
You're still good.
I'm good?
Yeah.
When you're always in the public eye, as a child, I was raised in the public eye with, even though the congregation was a smaller congregation,
right.
That pressure of having to act like a PK and do the right thing all the time, Yeah. So you were a safe place for me.
If I could add to that, honey, one of the struggles that I had was I was so attracted to your independence, I was also afraid of it. Because I say that to say that many times what we're attracted to is also what we fear. You being independent, I love that you were independent. You did your own thing. You went to your own college. You had your goal oriented, but I also thought I could lose her to that. Yeah. I could lose her to the independence. But I also had to say to myself, well, if I don't let her go. And what I mean by don't let her go is if I don't let her complete the goals that she has, then I would be a hindrance and not a blessing. You know, so
that's powerful.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, baby.
Yeah, that's one of the things, you know. So, listen, guys, we're just kind of opening up here. Let me ask my next question. What was the greatest challenge for you during our first years? What was the greatest challenge for you? And then, these are for the single folks out there, and of course the married folks that just got married. What was the challenge?
Becoming one.
Okay, that's good.
Because I was very, again, independent, strong, always proud of who I was, my heritage, my family, where I came from.
Right.
That becoming one with you, it was also in part learning how to compromise.
Yes.
And learning how to reprioritize.
That's good.
So in my own, what was also my strength, which is my independence and being very driven, was also my Achilles heel.
Come on.
It was also my Achilles heel, where becoming too independent and becoming too self-driven, you know, and trying to create my own career as a recent graduate. So I got married right after my college career, and I had a promising career in corporate America, and it demanded a lot from me. So I had to, at some point, 4 years down the line, I had to decide, you know, is this identity of a corporate woman going to cost me everything? And if so, am I willing to pay that price?
That's good.
So becoming one with you also meant I had to make some sacrifices. So no longer was my career the priority. The marriage was. The home life was. And for someone who's very independent and driven and ambitious career-wise, and ambitious is good as long as it's a healthy ambition. I realized 4 years into it that there was some sacrifice that had to be made. And once I realized how much could be lost, I was quick to make the decision to say, then this is not what God wants, where God wants me to be if it's going to cost me my family. Because when God blesses you, right, and then it was a new season that God was sending me into. Because when God gives you a family, He's not going to give you another blessing that's going to cause you to lose that family. So I had to reprioritize. And I had to make some compromises. And fast forward 15 years later, where I'm at now, how God used that transition and the family life and my transition back into the field of education to build me up to what I am now. So God, He's just excellent at weaving all the details of our life so intricately and so well. I'm impressed with God's design. It's so much better than ours. So I had to let go of my vision for myself.
Wow. That would take some heat, especially now in society where, you know, you women, you know, the view of it is go for the top, you know, go for the top. I think that's why, you know, what would you say, you know, and I know one of the things you said was, you know, prioritize, but what would you say, to that woman that's looking within herself and looking around herself and saying, I'm making an inventory of where I am, like you did. And what was that process for you? And what did you do? What made the change? What made it, you know, when did you come about and said, you know what, I have to make this change? I mean, what were some of the things that you can tell us?
When the vision for my family was compromised.
Okay.
You know, when my quality time with my family became compromised, where I'm an all or nothing kind of person. So I wanted to experience success in corporate America, but I did not want to lose my family in the process. So when I started to count the cost was when I woke up. And at the time, I thought it was a demotion to go from this well-paying
Yes.
corporate job
Yes.
to this teaching position in a first grade classroom in a district that is known for not necessarily always being the highest paying district.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, you were in the corporate world. You were being picked up by limousines. You were flying first
so
class,
I've got,
and you know, I was seeing all that. We were going.
I was staying at 5-star hotels all the time,
exactly.
and it was everything that, as a young woman, I had dreamed about. But then, as I became a more mature woman, I realized that it came with a lot of loneliness.
Yes.
It came with a lot of losses. Right. So I could have the big house, but my son wouldn't know me.
Yeah, sure.
I could have the big house, but I'd become strangers with my husband.
Yes.
So once I started to count the cost, I started to question. I knew what my priorities were, and I knew that my family had to come first. I knew that God would not give me a family for me to just lose it to a career.
Right.
So once I saw that, I started to realize, you know what? At the time, it felt like a demotion, but I wasn't following money. I knew one thing that I had learned earlier in life and through my relationship with God was we follow purpose, not money.
That's good.
So even though in the moment when I made the decision to leave corporate America, to leave a career that I was being groomed for my whole college career, because I was in a part of a corporate leadership program.
Right.
So this is something that it wasn't just 4 years of doing it. It was 4 years of anticipation,
preparation,
and then 4 years of getting to actually do it.
Right.
And then all of a sudden realizing that the dream was costing a price I wasn't willing to pay.
That's good. When the dream, that's good.
And then I started to question, well, it was a good dream for a season.
Okay.
But now in hindsight, I realize God was not demoting me. He was repositioning me.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
And sometimes we assume that repositioning is failure.
Right. That's good.
And it's not. But my faith in God, knowing that He works all things for good, caused me to believe that although I was taking a financial hit,
yes,
major financial decrease, and to the people around me in corporate America, they thought I was crazy. I was going from a well-paying job to becoming a teacher. Why would you do that? You know?
Right.
And then when I told them, I said, because being with my son and my husband is worth so much more than you could possibly pay me.
Right. And it wasn't the teaching position that you were looking at. It was the financial aspect of it.
Right. It was everything. It was everything. Because I'm not going to lie to you. I loved my job in corporate. I grew so much. And there was an exposure. I lived in a bubble. My family was a modest family. Didn't earn much. So I was opened up to this world of possibilities, you know.
Right.
But then I realized that there was a bigger dream. And that my dream for my family was actually bigger than my dream for my career.
Wow, that's tough. That's tough. A lot, and it was not an easy decision, was it?
I cried the entire way home, and I almost got into an accident coming back. And then when I started the classroom position, I was in complete culture shock. I felt that I had wasted my 4 years in college, you know, because I was prepping for this moment. I felt that, wow, did I just waste the last 8 years of my life, you know? And I think everyone gets to, you know, places of transition in their life. You're like, did I just waste all that money, all that effort for what?
Right.
10, 12 years later down the road, the Lord allowed a promotion within education where I would not be successful in my current role without that corporate experience.
Right. So
it shaped me.
Right. God used the corporate field to
How could
prepare
God
you.
possibly use both my corporate background and my educational background and merge the two together? It felt like it was just a complete disconnect.
Right.
A decade later, it totally makes sense.
Sure. You can't see it at first.
I couldn't see what God was doing.
Right.
You know, but I knew my priorities, and I knew my priority was God, family, ministry, and work. So that was one thing that my father instilled in me. It was one thing that I'd learned through my spiritual journey. And I knew once that dream was compromising my priorities, that it was a time for a shift.
That's good.
And the shift was part of my growth, even though at the time it didn't seem like it.
Wow.
And if I could do it all over again, I would change nothing.
That's
Because
great.
it was perfect.
Wow.
Because God is truly the master engineer.
Yes, he is. Right. Let me go on to the next one. Wow, that was powerful. What challenges do you see now? What challenges do you see now?
Distraction.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very easy to get distracted with your children, your jobs, paying the bills, ministry work, all of that.
Right.
So the greatest challenge is always making sure you're taking the time to cultivate the marriage. It has to be cultivated. It's not something you can ever stop investing in.
Yes.
You know? So to me, the biggest challenge is making sure that I invest the time into my marriage and investing in my children and running around with my kids and helping them with their goals and their, sports and this and that. That can all get in the way. It's very easy.
Yes.
It's so easy to get distracted, and being able to juggle it all as a woman, especially when you're not a stay-at-home mom, it becomes increasingly challenging, to be able to juggle it all.
Right.
So that's where I find my success comes from starting my mornings right.
Okay.
I got to start my mornings right, and I got to have my time with God,
Yes.
connecting with God.
Yes.
And if I connect with God, everything else remains in order.
It reminds me of something that we always talk about, and then I think I always tell you, I said, something has to give. I always tell you that. Something has to give. And I think you hit it when you said prioritize. When you prioritize things, then you know what you can give up. And not necessarily that you're just going to let it go, but it's just not at the top of the list. Because something has to give, and that's one of the things that I love about you is the fact that women can do that. They're
Flexibility,
the
to be flexible.
multitask, that stuff. And I also want to say about the single, how must it be for a single mom that she doesn't have that support?
Hats off to every single mother out there.
Yes.
That is a difficult task.
So that's just different areas, but I think that it's still the same in the aspect of prioritize, being able to plan and being able to say, okay, these are the most important things. Things are important,
Right.
but these are the most important things. And be able to, of course, like you said, in that morning, put your time with God and ask Him to lead you, to guide you, and to be able to direct you in how to do the most important things.
And I think my time with God, connecting with God, also helps me be a lot more intentional about what I do.
I like that.
As I'm intentional in meeting with God, I'm also intentional about connecting with my family and connecting with others. Because I can very easily, I realize that when I don't connect with God, I become very reactive to things and to the day. And I kind of let the circumstances drive me versus me taking control of my time, me making sure I'm intentional about carving out time for what matters most. First things first,
Sure.
as Stephen Covey would say it. And, making sure that I don't let things happen to me, I make things happen.
That's good.
And God gives me the wisdom to do that. So when I stay plugged,
Yes.
I'm better at making things happen
Right.
and less things start happening to me.
That's good. That's good. I know we still have our challenges, but your job is
yes.
stressful. You're a principal,
Yes.
and you have a whole a career and something that I admire. But it comes with challenges as well, and being able to balance all that. And I love what you said: preparing in the morning, and being reactive and active to act on. That's
Being intentional.
Being intentional.
Yeah.
Being intentional. Let me see my question. Where do you see us or yourself in the future?
I see us growing.
Okay.
And there's a song that used to Hate it.
I know where you're going. I know where you're going.
My husband, before becoming a high school music teacher, doing, the cool stuff, because right now he's the rock band teacher, he's the recording arts teacher, so you see his glory, but you don't know his story.
Here we go. This is what I'm talking about, guys.
Yeah,
I'm in trouble now.
So when I used to teach in the elementary classroom, one of our awesome schools in Lakewood, you were hired at first to do elementary work.
Right.
And talk about repositioning. God repositioned you from Perth Amboy, the school system in Perth Amboy down to here. And at the time, it looked like a demotion.
Making a lot more money, of course.
Yes, and financially decreasing.
Yes.
And it sounded crazy.
Yes.
For you to leave that job in Perth Amboy that was so promising.
Yes.
And a lot more promising financially.
Yes, and I was moving up the ladder as well.
Yeah, working on these. They have an amazing performing arts program, and wow, it would have been such an honor, for you to be a part of that. But you too had to pay some, make some sacrifices on behalf of the family. Yeah,
and that's why I say that God is major, because He's the one that told me, the position was already there. I was teaching at elementary school, and the high school teacher was about to retire. God bless him, Mr. Johnson. He's with the Lord now. And he told me, I was his accompanist, piano accompanist, and he said, "You're going to take my position." And I remember doing the last musical. And the Lord would tell me in my heart, "You're not taking this position." And I was fighting with God. God, I'm going to make more money.
I was fighting with God. I'm like, Lord, He's going to make more money.
I was going to make more money. I was going to be in a position where, I was traveling a lot. Same situation we had before.
You got to go to Carnegie Hall.
And all the musicals, and all the competitions in different states. And so it was a position where I said, man, this really is a great, But God told me no. Right in the musical, I'm directing. I was a musical director for the musical, and in the musical, He's telling me, no, this is not where I want you to go. This is not where I want you to go. And He brings me to Clark School, where you were teaching, and here I am now, going from being in buses and being in Carnegie Hall and being all these places to now pushing a cart. You didn't
even have your own room.
I didn't even have my own room. Yeah. And so, at the time.
And your office.
And my office was literally a little closet that,
yes.
It was just a little closet. And I would go in there and ask God, did I make the right decision? What am I doing? And it was the same process. He kind of took us through the same process where then an opening happened at the middle school and then the high school, and God really opened out. Now I'm at the high school doing exactly the same thing, where I'm
creating programs and implementing new curriculum
and the musicals and all that. And it was like God kind of brought us to the same. And I thought it was because He was teaching us, number one, to be able to listen to His voice, because He had a better plan.
Yes.
I mean, in my head, my plan was, I'm making more money. I have a better plan.
A better plan equals more pay.
Exactly. And this is going to be beneficial to my family. But I also knew in the back of my mind that it was going to take us away. It was going to take me away from being with the family. And so that same decision, you see, that's why.
And being away from ministry.
And being away from ministry, and being where, at the time I was not a pastor. I was just doing the music thing. And being away from ministry and being able to, decide. And so, I had to make the same decision. But I have to tell you, you made it easy for me. Because when I saw you jump, when I saw you, she gave it up. She gave up the corporate because she knew how important the family was. Then I said, I have to take the same jump. And the Spirit of God spoke to my heart and said, you have to do the same thing. And even though what looked like a demotion, it was actually,
make sense,
which didn't make sense.
God was asking us something that
didn't make sense.
Didn't feel like it made sense at the time.
And it was a preparation to what I know that we don't even see in the future,
So you used to sing this song.
Yeah, we'll go back to the song. I'm trying to get away from that.
You're trying to get me to forget about this story,
yes.
And we would have this joke, and we would kind of we understood it was a season in our lives where God just had caused us to pause all of our dreams and put them in the back burner and put God
Yes.
and family first, you know?
Yes, yes.
And at some point, we just started to kind of take it lightly, you know? We're like, look. And then, so you also used to always sing a song. Each of us is a flower.
That's right.
And he would, I think, sing that song 10 times a day for
Yes.
however many classes you had.
For the elementary kids, you know, and I taught it. My wife was in second grade, and I taught her class.
So
And
I would watch him coming in, pushing in his cart,
That's right.
knowing the big sized dreams that were within him and all the potential within him, and to watch how God had him just pushing into my classroom on a cart
Right.
and singing "Each of Us is a Flower" over and over because the kids loved it.
Yeah.
And singing all kinds of silly songs with the children, and truly that was you were in the Potter's house for sure.
Yeah, and you know, I loved it. You know, and it did open different doors, because I remember creating the first musical at the elementary level,
Broadway junior musicals.
That's right, the juniors, and which prepared, you know, it catapulted me.
So it wasn't, and as T.D. Jakes says it wasn't the thing, but it was the thing that led you to the thing.
There it is. It wasn't the thing, but it was the thing that led you to the thing. And you know what? Which God showed us something, and I think that is important. Where you are now, do your best at it. You know, it wasn't my dream there.
It wasn't your dream job.
It wasn't a dream job. But I understood that no matter what, I'm going to do my best at it. Because sometimes when we're in certain circumstances and certain jobs and certain positions, that we say to ourselves, we're better than this. You know, we deserve better. You know, God say no. You know, like Joseph, you know, he went from Potiphar's house to the jail, you know, and he didn't say arrogantly, I deserve better, you know. But inside yourself, you know that there's a bigger dream. You know that
You weren't created to stay there.
I wasn't created.
created
I
there for
knew.
a reason.
I knew that there was something. Not that it was better, but that it was purpose. You know. But I needed to go through that, and I said to myself, I'm going to be the best elementary teacher that I can be. I'm going to be the best husband at that time that I can be. I'm going to be the best father. God was shaping and saying, you have to be the best where you are now. Because, like what Bishop said, it might not be the thing, but what?
It's the thing that will get you to the thing.
That's right. That's right. And so that's what I thought. I said, you know, I had fun with the kids. You know, I did
enjoy the season.
You enjoyed the season. You enjoyed the season. But of course, I would go back to my little closet and say,
why, right?
yeah, like what happened? I was on buses, planes, and Carnegie Hall, and this, that, and the other. What, you know, Lord, you know, you look at it and
is this failure? You know,
yeah.
Did we err? What did we do?
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
But I think we understood in our core that we were being obedient to the voice of God, and I think that is really key in having success in your personal journey with God, as well as in your marriage, is, you know, counting the cost and being willing to make certain sacrifices, and understanding that those sacrifices won't be forever. They're for a season.
Right.
They're for a season. And we had very young children at the time
Right.
that required our attention. And we were in a season of collaboration, and we needed each other. The kids needed us, and we needed to slow the train.
You know, and like I said at the beginning, we were independent. We had dreams. We had dreams, separate dreams.
Yes.
You know, you had the corporate. I had the musician, Carnegie Hall. You know, we were living the dream, as they say, living the dream. But God had another dream for us,
Yes.
which I know that if we would have definitely, you know, what would be the outcome if we would have kept in that vision and in that arm? And God said, no, you have to come in. You have to take inventory. You have to, because if the dream is taking you away from the foundation, which is family, which is God, which, you know, God, family, purpose, the purpose that God, then it's a distraction. It could be a nightmare. You know, it could turn into a nightmare. What we see as a dream, and we say to ourselves, man, I want that dream. I want that dream. And we work and we work it and we work it and work it. But when we get it, it's a nightmare, because then we look at ourselves and we lose ourselves in going into the dream. And I think that's what was happening to me. I was losing myself in the aspect of, I was saying, I need these things so that I could define myself. Because, you know, who doesn't want to be successful? Everyone wants to be successful, but I guess it's the definition of how you see successful, and God sees it differently. And God says you have to focus on me. What's my relationship within this? What's my purpose? God was telling me, or us, I would say, do you believe me? Do you have faith in me that what I have for you is better than what the dream that you are trying to fulfill?
Yes. And 20 years later, I have to say, God's plan is so much, his plans, his thoughts are higher, they're better.
Sure.
They have taken us to places I never thought.
God has opened the doors, in marriage counseling, in being able to have conferences, of marriage conferences that we wouldn't have gone through. We would, and God took us through these experiences to prepare us. Yeah. You were saying, honey?
Yeah. And I think that continuing to listen, staying connected every morning, every day, with what God has for you is really what is going to bring you peace of mind. Because I have to say that even though at the time it sounded crazy, and to everyone around me it sounded a little mind-boggling that I was making those transitions, there was a peace in the transition.
Wow, that's good.
There was such a peace in letting it go.
Yes.
It was a necessary ending.
There you go.
And I found so much peace in that ending, even though I cried, because I was letting go of my dreams as a young girl, and now I was dreaming as a woman.
Oh, wow, that's powerful. Wow.
My dream as a woman changed. I didn't have the young girl dreams anymore.
Wow.
And some people fight that, that shift, but it is a natural shift, and it's okay. It's okay if you have to let go of that vision that you had in your head of what your life would be.
Wow.
Let it go. Let it go.
Wow.
There are some necessary endings that will catapult you into the next season of your life.
Wow.
And sometimes it is necessary, and when we fight that transition, like you said, the dream really does become a nightmare. And you find yourself alone. I am convinced that if I had not made that shift, you and I wouldn't be talking today. I wouldn't be enjoying our humor, our laughter together, our times in the mornings, our times in the evenings, our time with our children. I'm pretty sure I would have had a big house with no one in it.
Wow.
So I